Okay, it's another episode of Reflections, and my guest this time is going to be Nukeduck, famed mid laner of EU, who's now back in LCS, thankfully, this year. So I want to go way back in time to start off, which is I want to ask you about that team called Sinners Never Sleep. And obviously this is the team that you got into LCS with, actually. When this team was formed, almost every player, eventually when he became Lemondogs, etc., was eventually known as like a top player in their role and have played in many different teams. You know, we've seen what Tabs has done since, Mithy obviously in Origin, Dexter's been in a bunch of different teams. How was it possible that all these good players were just out there somewhere in like EU West and none of them were like on a top team? Like I know Dexter was like a sub or something for Dragon Balls, but no one was actually on like a top team.
Well, that was not the roster we qualified to LCS with. Like, we qualified with Nunia and we were failure actually.
Okay, sure.
So basically what happened was that I played with the team, like Team Solo Mevdi, right? But I was too young to play the qualifier. So I was supposedly going to play there in the summer split when they got into LCS, because they were like really strong and I'm like really sure they would have made it. But then when they got banned, I decided to go play mid lane again. And then I started with Rallis and Zorozero and Mr. Rallis.
Yep.
And then Rallis picked up We Will Failure as his support, and we just like swapped around on junglers quite a bit. We were playing a bit with Shook, but eventually ended on Nunia. And then we had to swap out Rallis for the qualification because he was too young, so we played with Tabs. And then we swapped Dexter for Nunia right after. We qualified and then failure in week 2. So, and we weren't like, none of us were like really good back then. I think we all were kind of good, but we practiced like really, really hard when we were in Lemondogs. We practiced like, it's like the amount we practiced would like nowadays be called like over practicing, basically. So I think that did a lot for us too.
Like what kind of amount were we talking? Like 10 hours a day or something?
Yeah, pretty much 10 hours a day of scrims.
Okay. So, okay, if you back then had that sort of a lineup and you said you were trying out Shook, why didn't you take Shook then? Wasn't he considered a good player already at the time, like a potential talent?
Yeah, but he was like, I don't know, he was banned or something, but also he like just disappeared for 1 week. He was like super unreliable back then. So like, it was hard for us to find junglers because like we were kind of random back then. So we just went with like a guy that could actually like meet up on time every time and listen to us.
Okay, so one of the things, like as you mentioned, you started LCS with We Will Failure, but then you got in Mithy, and that's like actually, it was like roughly around that time when the team like basically went to the top of LCS and was doing really well. What was the actual impact of bringing Mithy into the team? Like, was he like doing more shot calling? Was he doing what was his like kind of role within the team?
So he did absolutely no shot calling. The thing Mithy provided us was like, when failure was there, it was kind of like a bad atmosphere, and on top of that, our duo lane was like feeding bot lane every game, and they were like not getting along at all. So when we talked to Mithy, he said that he could provide to like just like play bot lane good, because like Tabs was obviously new to AD, so he said he could like teach Tabs how to play lane phase, and if he wanted to win lane bot, then like he was our guy. And he also was like really, really motivated, so he helped us like basically everyone got motivation and everyone got along, so it was easy for us to practice it that much. And he was also like really skilled mechanically, so it was, so we had a bot lane that was actually like really strong then.
During Mithy's career, people have asked the question, is he a choker? Do you think he ever has had a problem with that? Has it ever been something you've thought?
No, I don't think so. Like he played solid all the games at Worlds. Like we had some bad games, but it was not due to choking. It was more like the Korean teams lane swapped on us and we had no idea what we were supposed to do. So I don't think so.
So
like,
Tabs, okay.
No, he has his nervous moments though. I think he was pretty nervous when he played against KMT, but he's not a choker, I think.
So Tabs told me a story like as if to describe what it was like being in Lemondogs. And in the story, he said one time, like, okay, he said, like, to give you an example of what it was like, you know, I remember there was a game where there was a huge wave in my bot lane, and then I was on the fountain and I was heading there, and then Nukeduck just said, no, you go to the mid lane and I will go to the bot lane and I will take all the farm, and like, you know, I will carry the game. And like, as though he said it as though that's the way it was. Like the game was like about getting Nukeduck farmed up and he was going to carry the whole game. Is that realistic? Is that what it was like?
Well, yeah, like we kind of copied that from Cloud9 actually. They were like playing really well and their AD carry barely ever farmed. And when we thought about it, we came to the conclusion, or at least I did, that having farm on your AD carry is like, at that point it wasn't that much like defensive support being played. There was no like Jannas and stuff. It was only like Syras, Sonas. So you didn't have like the tools you have now to like keep your AD carry alive and help him carry. So he was only really relevant for team fights to have AD carry farm back then. Whereas if you had top and mid farm and even jungle, you could have way more map control like that. Because yeah, you could just kill the other people. And even if the enemy prioritized farm on their AD carry, it wouldn't really do shit if they were weaker in like all the side lanes and in jungle. So we just like came to the conclusion, or I was kind of maybe the leader and shot caller of the team back then. So that was just like my philosophy on it, at least. That's why I just took all the farm, and it was more like let top, mid, and jungle farm rather than just let me farm.
Okay. When you guys went to Worlds, and obviously, like for people who can't remember that tournament, that was the one where the group that you were in had SK Telecom, who everyone knew was the best team, and obviously went on to win the tournament. But it also had OMG in, who was a very good team from China. So actually, even going into the group, most people in the West thought like that's like the group of death, you know, because those two teams are almost certain to get out in first, and it's going to be hard to get wins against them. Did you actually think likewise? Did you like? I've kind of heard from some of the players in your team like people didn't necessarily take it 100% seriously or something?
Yeah, we were kind of happy to get the Worlds at that time. And we thought it was going to be really hard to win versus OMG and SKT. But we tried pretty hard. But yeah, we tried hard, but we knew that it wasn't going to be as easy as back in EU.
When you think back now, I'll say, okay, so at one point in time, you've played in like an LCS final with Lemondogs, you went to Worlds with Lemondogs. At the time, everyone was thinking like, oh, okay, I mean, this team will obviously accomplish a lot more in the future. These players will all be, you know, in the top of LCS. But actually, aside from Mithy and his success in Origin, almost everyone, that was kind of like the high point of their career now. I mean, Zoro doesn't even play anymore. Dexter's kind of like been around a few teams, but none of them have been really, really good teams. You obviously had the whole year out, and then Mithy was obviously out for a while. Do you ever look back and wonder, like, should I have gone a different path? Should I have, like, joined a different team? Or should I have just stayed in Lemondogs? Is there another way it could have gone?
I mean, there was, like multiple ways it could have gone. But the thing was that after World Season 3, we kind of realized that the game was evolving a bit. And Dexter and Mithy were, like, both, like, kind of rookies back then. They hadn't had played on many teams or anything. So like I was doing like most of the shot calling, but it became really hard for me to do that in early game when people were like swapping and invading and doing all that like stuff. It's super hard to do that from mid lane. So we were like really lost every game in early game. Most of the time people swapped on us. So we kind of like looked for options where we could have like where we needed someone that could take control either as jungle or support basically, and that's what we were looking for. And so we decided that it was not like gonna work that well in the long run. But besides that, I think I did every choice right, considering the information I had at that time.
Okay. Is there a reason, because I've asked you this a bunch of times, like I know, okay, it's now a popular thing where, okay, a player like Svenskeren or Bjergsen will go over to North America, and now people really do consider it. And so, I mean, Hooney and those guys just went over. But I know throughout your career, you've had offers a bunch of seasons from NA teams and LCS, like come and play for us, be the mid laner. Is there a reason you are not open to the idea? It seems like you don't even consider it. Like, yeah, I want to stay in Europe, I don't want to go there. Have you ever really thought about it?
Well, like all the like NA offers I've gotten have been from like not the best teams, and If I'm not going for like one of the best teams, I probably won't go to North America.
Would it have been different if it had been like a Team Liquid or something?
Maybe if I had a Team Liquid offer, then perhaps. But I am not completely sure. Like I just never had like a really good NA offer actually.
So you never thought to yourself like, okay, it wouldn't matter if I was on a worse team, like, you know, and I mean the old joke about like NA mids being terrible, like I'd wreck everyone, you know, I'd do awesome, I'd get lots of money.
Well, the thing is like the career is still pretty young, so I will try to like compete at the highest level for the like as long as possible, and then if we do really good, then maybe we can go to NA. Like at a later time. Like I felt it was too early for me to go basically.
The NA retirement home. Okay.
Well, it's more like if you like do really good nowadays, like let's say you do like FNATIC did or something like that, or something similar, you can go to NA for like a lot of money now. Way more than it was before, so
sure.
Yeah, so maybe at a later time, but I just felt the time wasn't right.
So one of the weird things is when you guys split from Lemondogs and you guys went and made Nip, obviously Dexter wasn't one of the people who came along with you, and at the time he actually came out and was kind of, I mean, let's face it, he was a bit salty. Like he said some stuff on stream and he kind of like implied like, you know, I made Nukeduck, you know, I camped his lane all the time. And here's the thing, Dexter himself doesn't even seem to really think that way anymore, and I know after the fact, in fact what's funny is after what he went through in CLG, I know he now looks back on the Lemondogs days like, oh, those were the best times, we had such a good team, I wish we were together again, you know, like seems like he's turned around a bit. Was there ever like a bad relationship between you and Dexter?
No, not at all actually. There was no bad relationship with anyone in my team. It was only like the only arguments we kind of had was when we were practicing a lot, and then Tabs or Dexter got like exhausted, and then we kept playing and they were like really annoyed, and then we got annoyed because they weren't like trying as hard, but it was just like small things like that. Everyone like got along pretty well.
When you say that, okay, so you've brought up a couple of times now, like how much you guys were playing before you got an LCS, and then how much you were playing at this point in time. And in fact, I think that's something Dexter said, like he didn't necessarily want to play as much after Worlds, you know. I remember doing an interview with Zorozero, and I actually asked him the question, like, you know, a lot of foreigners make the excuse, like, you know, oh, we don't have the same team houses in Korea, we don't have the same coaches. And I kind of said to him, like, yeah, but I mean, let's face it, a lot of Western players probably would never want to live in that kind of lifestyle, you know, playing all day long. And he actually told me that he thinks he's one of the few players who would. Like, he thinks if he was in that scenario, he could just practice all day long. Do you think he could? Are you like that?
Yeah, I could do that too, yeah. I think Zoro would do that too. He was playing like non-stop. As well as me, we were just like solo. If we weren't scrimming, we were solo queuing always in the Nip house, like all day, every day.
Does it actually help to play that much though? Because obviously, like some people do worry, maybe you burn out from doing it.
No, I think like people like if you actually like want to improve even more, like you should just like scrim even more than you're doing now. Like, I think people are like playing a little bit too little, maybe. Yeah, I think like the burnout thing is not as dangerous as people like make it out to be, because you're not gonna burn out if you really want to like if you really want to win and you practice for that, then you're not gonna burn out because you're gonna see progress and you're gonna do something useful.
Okay, well on the other end of the spectrum though, does it not amaze you that people like Soaz? I mean, supposedly Soaz like almost never plays solo queue, mate. It hasn't for about 2 years or something.
Yeah, I have him on friend list on League, and he barely ever plays. Yeah.
How's he so good then if he never plays?
I'm not sure. Like, I'm actually, yeah, that's pretty amazing to me. Like, if I would play as little as him, I would be dog shit.
So one of the players from that team who it looks now like we're never going to see him in League again is Zorozero. Like, obviously he was in your NIP team as well. But then after that, I mean, people might forget this, but that basically, I think this was already said publicly. Basically, if he'd wanted to join, he could have gone to CLG when you guys failed the second time to qualify. Like, CLG just asked him, come and join us, please, we want you to be in. And he literally just said, like, no, I don't want to do it, and, like, I don't want to play anymore, I'm going to go back to school. Yeah.
Wait, the reason, yeah, that was true, and the reason why he didn't want to go was that in Denmark, it's like, you can take 1 year off, but if you take 2 years off, like the school resets, so you would have to take 2 years again on high school. that's why I wanted to take 1 year off and do high school.
Right, okay, that makes sense. Well, the other part is, though, I know like a year later, so like this year, he also had a similar offer. I don't know if this was ever said publicly, but okay, I won't say the team. Let's just say there was a team in LCS that really wanted him to join, and they kept telling me like, oh, he says he'll do it, he'll join, and then all of a sudden he just, yeah, I believe it was. So he just decided at the last second, though, like for whatever reason, he just essentially never got back to them, and then he just didn't join, and they ended up going obviously with Wicked again. Is there a reason? Do you think we'll ever see Zorozero as a pro player again?
No.
Does it surprise you he's just never come back?
No, he will never come back.
Why not?
He's in the army now, and he's like living real life. Like he barely even plays other games too anymore. Like it will be a miracle if you see him back, a Christmas miracle.
Okay. Well, wasn't he a really good player though?
Yeah, he was really good, and it was it also helped him to practice that much. Like you could really see the difference. Like he was super good and motivated. So when he like practiced that hard, and like we had like 1 month to practice, he just became like a god on like those champions we were practicing and that meta. Like he became like just unbeatable at that.
Did you have some kind of like special chemistry with him or something? Because it seemed like even in game, you guys like always worked well together. Like he's actually one of the few top laners who used to like gank mid lane.
Yeah, I think we worked pretty well together. We were good friends and played like a lot together, and yeah, it worked out. Yeah.
So I've got a question for you, okay, that Zorozero wouldn't answer in his interview when I did mine with him way back when it was NIP time, which is the first NIP squad, the ones where you lost to KMT. Okay, everyone knows like some of the other details, like for example, like Overpow just doing all these weird picks that no one had ever seen, and like okay, all that stuff I can understand. Like it's hard to know that that's coming in, but one of the weirdest parts is the one player that you'd brought in out from outside to go along with like Freeze was obviously HyrqBot to be the jungler. And what people forget is, when he was actually in SK, he was a good jungler. He used to like really active, ganking all over the map, and everyone was like, "Wow, this guy's what a good jungler." But in that series, I don't think I've ever. It's almost like he was a jungler that never made a gank. Like, what do you think happened to him?
He got some eye issues. Like basically, Elise was also extremely broken on that patch. Like Elise has like received like 5 sets of nerfs or something since that time, and she's like still like first pick. So she was extremely broken. But he was like, nah, I don't like Elise. I will not play Elise. And then it was like playing Amumu, and then on top of that he got like some kind of something happened to his eye, so he couldn't like play that much. Like he couldn't see or something, so he couldn't practice that much, and it really hurt his performance, I think. That's also the reason he retired. It's also the reason he retired, because of his eye.
Just in terms of performance, was he like a big part of why he lost the series? Because like I said, I mean, he just basically never ganked all the time. He just walked around the map.
Well, he was a part of it, but like everything kind of went wrong for us. Like it was the new patch, and we weren't able to discover like the good way to play the patch, the good picks on the patch, while they kind of did. And then, yeah, like everything kind of didn't go our way that series. It was just a lot of bad stuff.
Is this story true that Freeze told me that after game 1, everyone was like, in the huddle, and then everyone was like, right, we should ban Kayle, obviously, because Overpow just wrecked us all with Kayle. And then you were like, no, don't ban it. I can handle it. Like I can play against it. It'll be fine. And you just let it go through. Is that true?
Yeah, it's true. But it's true. The thing was, I didn't know like how OP Kayle was, because it was like, it's one thing when we farmed the whole fucking game and he had 6 items and he was like winning with like a scaling build. That was one thing, but I thought like that we could actually like do something early game, but like Kayle was apparently like really strong early game too back then with a really high damage Q. And also I picked like melee mid when we didn't have an aggressive jungler, so it was like an aggressive jungle champion. So it didn't, we should probably have banned it, but like I wasn't aware of how good it was, because it was like literally our first game ever against Kayle.
Sure. Have you ever heard this story? Supposedly, Overpow himself, that isn't even a champion he practiced. He really just did some crazy shit, like played it one solo queue game before the series, and then was like, I think I'll just play this, and played it. Like I think it was VandeR who told me that. Like, do you think that could be real?
Yeah, that could be real. It sounds like an Overpow thing to do. But he probably realized how good it was. I'm already played because it was like insanely strong. Because like that season, it got nerfed right before the season actually started. But then even then, after the AP ratio got halved on his queue, like he still was like perma banned. So like he probably just like discovered the strength of it, and I wanted to use it.
In that series, I noticed there was a trend, obviously you lost all 3 games, but the trend of how you lost the games reminded me actually the second time that you failed to qualify when you were against Millennium. All the games you lost against Millennium, it was the same shit. It was like, it would always get to the mid game and your team was doing fine, or maybe you even had a slight lead, and then it's like you just went up, like both teams are waiting to initiate a fight wouldn't happen, and then it's like the game would just go on for 20 more minutes, and then they would just outscale you or have every item, and at that point it's like the game was over. Does this sound reasonable? Is that how you remember it at all?
The Millennium game?
No, I think for both these series it was similar. There was a lot of like you were waiting and it just went right to the late game, and then you could never get a fight at that point that you wanted.
Yeah, it was pretty much like the thing was that like the enemy team was like playing Rise and stuff, and Zoro wasn't comfortable playing it because Hulberto was really like not active jungler at all. So it was like we were kind of limited to our top lane champion pool, and then the enemy picked like really good scaling top and jungle, and then we weren't able to like create enough, and they just like outscaled us with the old Wriggle's Lantern thing upgrade. What was it again? The jungle thing that had like unlimited scaling basically, and
Feral Flare.
Yeah, Feral Flare, yeah.
But weren't you the shot caller?
Well, not really anymore. Like after season 3, it was really hard for me to be the shot caller anymore, basically, because of the change of the game. Like it was more like every role, like but mid lane could do more, because like top had teleport and the jungle and support were kind of like controlling the map more. So it was hard for me to be like the shot caller back in season 4.
Do you think that your team had an issue with shot calling? Because like I said, it seemed like you got into a lot of weird stalemate type scenarios like that, where either you should have known make plays earlier in the game or when to make the decisive move, you know?
Yeah, probably. And yeah, we had some shot calling issues, and also it was like we played kind of with a jungler that was like our 5th option or something, so it was like pretty suboptimal.
So what happened with that then? Because I can understand the HyrqBot one. Like it's not. I mean, you can't have known that. He was issues,
good.
You know?
Yeah, he was good in SK.
Yeah, he was good, but also you couldn't have known those issues would all happen. That's fine, okay. But why, for the next 2 attempts, or for the next attempt rather? Like for the first, here's the one I don't get. It's the one where you were going into the Millennium one that season, because all season long you were just using people who were like 16 years old and couldn't play the lands. So you were wrecking everyone with them, and then you'd have to pick up some random guy who's shit as the jungler for the actual qualification match. It's like cause it even happened in the Challenger series, if you remember that offline final you played against Cloud9. It's like,
yeah.
I mean, looking back, does it not just seem ridiculous you didn't just get like a half decent jungler at the beginning of the split?
The problem was that there was none to take. Like there was actually no one we could take that was even good. Like it was, nobody. We couldn't find anyone that would fit at all. Like just actually no one.
Even though you had so many good players in the team.
Yeah, like we were gonna like obviously do jungle swap and stuff like that if we made it to LCS, but because then we would have a spot and all the stuff, but
sure.
At that time we just weren't able to find a good jungler basically.
When you had the first time you failed to qualify, it also looked a bit better because obviously that team then became ROCCAT, and actually for a while they were like on top of LCS, you know, in that season, and they ended up being a pretty decent team overall. Like they finished I think like 3rd the first season, then 4th the next one. So in the end it's not like you lost to some shit team.
Yeah.
But here's the part that I don't really get, okay. After you lost that one, what happened? Okay, you could maybe make the excuse after that one, like, oh, they were better than we expected. After you lost the second one to Millennium, though, didn't people in the team just think, like, this team doesn't work? Like, there's something wrong with our team? Like, I mean, we've lost 2 qualifications in a row now. I mean, something's broken.
Well, kind of. But we, like, the thing was, like, we were still, like, playing, like, we knew that we weren't bad. Like, we play a lot online and all that stuff. Like, we knew we weren't bad. Like, something just, like, didn't work out again, kind of. I think maybe some people lost a bit faith, but I knew that we could be good if we just would do, like, a couple of more lineup changes, or like one more rather, and we could be a really good team.
Explain to me this weird story, okay, there's actually 2 teams in 2014 who had this exact same storyline, and it was Alliance and it was NIP. And the story goes like this. In scrims, they're always wrecking everyone by 8 minutes, so everyone's like, remake, like, let's not play the scrim anymore. And so as a result, both teams actually had these weird periods where they had problems. You guys had problems at the qualifiers, and if you remember, Alliance actually had problems in the first half of that first split, you know. And I kept hearing the same story. Like, I would ask other players, not just the players from the team, you know, and they'd be like, oh yeah, in scrims they just destroy us, but I don't know why they do badly, like, in the big games or whatever. Was this really what it was like in NIP?
Yeah, pretty much. Like, we didn't like wreck everyone, but we won, like, most of the games, like, really high percent versus, like, the lower part of the LCS, but still versus, like, Alliance, it was like we played really close games, and FNATIC too. And SK, but, like, the other ones we were kind of stomping, I guess, in scrims.
If you look back now, is there a different way you could have practiced, or some other thing you could have done to, like, prepare yourselves more for, like, being good at, like, the mid game and the late games? Was there a different way you could have gone about it?
Probably, yeah. We didn't focus that much on team play. Like, we were kind of just, like, me and Zoro were really, like, just start trying to individually practice and try to just get, like, really good ourselves and win our lanes and all that good stuff. But we didn't really like analyze the game from, like, a team perspective, you know, like, how should we have played this as a team and stuff like that. Even though mithy actually encouraged us to do it, but we kind of like yeah, we didn't listen to him.
Okay. When you were in that team, and after the Millennium one, where it was like the 3-2 and they got back into LCS, you made this famous set of roster changes where you brought Alexic in and he was the top laner. And then what people forget is, for a very brief amount of time, Febiven was the AD carry, but then magically, overnight, Febiven was just gone from the team. And here's the thing. So, I don't know if this is being said publicly, but Febiven basically told me that, like, certain members in the team or member didn't want him in the team, and that's why he was just, like, kicked out. Like, what can you tell me anything about that? Why wasn't Febiven in that lineup overall?
Alright, so when we made the lineup, we were me, Ku, Alex, and mithy. No, yeah,
I think that's right.
Yeah. And then we had, like, a vote on who we wanted to play with, and I wanted to play with Febiven. I think Ku wanted to play with Febiven, and I'm not sure about, like, mithy was like, because he had played, like, a really long time with Freeze already, and they had, like, really good synergy. They were, like, actually a really good bot lane. And I'm not, like, exactly sure how it was. I just know that I wanted to play with Febiven, and mithy was, like, kind of unsure. So, like, we settled it, and we took Febiven. Like, that was the plan. And then one day I went to the cinema, and when I came back, I heard that Febiven is out and Freeze is in, apparently. So it was like, we played some games, and apparently someone didn't like Febiven. But I think it was nice back then. But also, it was that if we didn't take Freeze, we would have to play through fucking ranked ladder.
Oh,
like,
okay.
Super fucking
you
annoying.
3 out of the 5 people.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, that part makes sense.
Yeah, but that wasn't even why, though. Like, we were ready to do that, but like, someone just didn't want to play with Febiven. I don't exactly remember who, but
I mean, it was implied by the way Febiven was kind of mad about it, that, like, presumably, like, he argued with someone or didn't get along with someone, and then they were just like, I'm not playing with that guy.
I don't think that was even the case. Like,
Because back then he had everyone loves him now, but back then everyone was like, "Oh yeah, he is toxic. Oh, he's a piece of shit. That guy." Like, was he a hard person to play with?
I mean, we didn't play much, and in those games he played, he was like behaving pretty well. But you will always behave well in the first games you play with the team. It's not like it's gonna go full ham on the first game,
Yeah.
Okay. But like he seemed nice to me at least. Like he got a little bit upset like once when Ku invades enemy jungle like completely alone, and then the enemy bot lane kills him, and he says like, "You guys need to move," and he's like, "Do not dare to blame this on me." He was getting like really bad, but it was like it was not that big of a deal. So
okay.
So like there was no problem. It was just someone preferred to play with Freeze.
So okay, here's something that people might not know is when the Alliance team wasn't even called Alliance yet, and it was just called the Super Team. If you remember that whole period, one of the initial lineups they had, a lot of people don't know this. People know like, okay, Freeze and Edward were going to be in the team, but the one person they don't know is actually it's true. Alex Ich was going to be the top laner initially, and they tried a little bit in the off season, and then for whatever reason he decided, "No, I'll just go back to Gambit. I'll be the mid laner again." How did you convince him to leave Gambit and come and be the top laner of this NiP team?
No, we didn't convince him at all. Like he messaged us and he was like, because we were kind of like ready to go our separate ways after that Millennium thing. And then he just like messaged all of us like, "Hey, let's make a team and go through Challenger. Like I want to play with Ku. He's really, really good jungler. And I will go top and we play with you guys." And we were like, "Yeah, sure." So like it was kind of his decision. Like he was the one driving it.
So do you think... Does that give you a little ego boost then? I mean, Alex Ich was a pretty sick mid lane. If he's like, "Oh, you play mid, I'll just be your top laner."
Not really. I knew that was pretty good back then. I thought I was better than him all the way since season 3. So
okay, was he? It seemed like he had problems as a top laner. Did he have problems from what you saw?
Not really. Like he was playing pretty well considering he just swapped. It wasn't like a swap where he practiced top and then we start playing. It was like he instantly started playing in team and started top. And he did like really well considering that. Like he played some mid lane champions top, like Rise, and I don't remember the other stuff, but like a lot. He played good top, and he was like really good at like controlling the team actually.
Okay. And was he like actually the shot caller?
Yeah, in later parts of the game, and he kind of brought us like a little bit of a new view on the game too. Like he was obviously a really smart player from like Moscow 5 and all that stuff. Okay. So he helped us out like in that regard quite a bit.
Can you give an example of like something interesting a philosophy he had, or a way to think about the game that maybe you hadn't thought of before?
Yeah, like for example, when he's like saw the enemy picks, he would just say like, "Okay, I'm going Soraka top here, and the enemy will not be able to like kill us at all." And like his way of like counter picking with weird champs and all that stuff, it was pretty good there.
Oh, okay. So when you had this lineup before you guys got banned, like how soon after that lineup was it that you guys got banned? Was it like a few weeks? Was it a month? What was it?
I don't remember. Like maybe a month, 3 weeks, maybe something like that.
Okay, I'll try it. I'll see if I can find that. When this actually happened and the ban came in.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, actually it says here on June the 6th. That can't have been long into the lineup.
Yeah, but we were playing before like it was released as well, though.
Okay. Let me have a look here. Yeah, the team officially was announced on May 8th and June 6th. So like roughly a month from the official time it was announced is when the ban came in. Before you got banned, how was that lineup actually going along? Was it working well? Was the team good?
Yeah, we were like crushing everyone in Challenger series at least. Like our only real competition was like Cloud9, but I'm pretty sure we were better at that time. Like we played against like UOL back then because they were in Challenger and they like got absolutely demolished. So yeah, I think that was like the best NiP lineup maybe because we had an actually like really good jungler.
So when you guys got banned, you and Mithy at the same time, Like, what? If anyone doesn't know the circumstances of this, unfortunately, most people just saw like the screenshots, and then I don't think they needed to see any more. They were just like, right, I don't need to see any more. It's obviously unbelievably unacceptable. But wasn't the circumstances something weird? Like, it wasn't solo queue. It was actually like a ranked 5 custom game with people you knew, and then for some reason, someone as a joke thought it would be funny to leak the screenshots, right? Something like that.
No, well, kind of. It was more like we made a joke because there was a guy in that chat that was a really toxic player that is a Palestinian that is really involved in the conflict, right? And he usually writes about that in game. So I was kind of making a parody on him, in the chat. And then one guy that didn't know that well, like screenshotted it like some kind of like high-low kid, and he just like, I don't know why he leaked it or whatever, but he at least leaked it. But that was not the main reason it was one of the reasons we were banned. But that only led to a fine though.
Okay.
And a warning. And then we behaved too toxic in solo queue after, and that's why we got banned.
Okay. But I suspect that made them like look a bit more carefully at what was going on, etc. Being real, like, were you actually really toxic? Like, were you just like, if you were playing and someone like did, like, say the enemy say your jungler, just came into lane and like fucked up the gank, and then he died to the other mid laner, would you just like let him know, like, you retarded, like, what the fuck are you doing, like?
Like at that time, I would probably write something that I can't say in this interview. So
sure.
So yeah, I was pretty fucking toxic back then. Like I just thought it was like, I thought it was like kind of funny to use like really like harsh words and flame. Like I thought it was a bit funny. It wasn't like I had like sick rages or anything, but it was
I mean, I'll be honest with you, I think it is pretty funny, but
yeah, but we were extremely toxic, both of us.
Okay.
So the ban was definitely deserved.
But when they actually banned you, was there any kind of like, okay, you got the warning for the screenshots. Was it kind of like implied, like, oh, if we have to come again, then you're probably banned? Was there anything even come out? Did it just come out of the blue completely? You're like, what the fuck, I'm banned?
I'm pretty sure that acted as a final warning, that thing. So
okay.
So yeah, it was nothing like, I know I'm supposed to say that, but it was actually nothing wrong from Riot's side. I'm not saying that because I work for Riot. It was actually nothing wrong from Riot's side. It was completely our fault. We were like extremely toxic.
The last question on this particular topic. Are there other people who are really high elo, LCS type players who say that kind of stuff, toxic still to this day?
Not the kind of stuff that we said when we got banned.
Okay.
But there are, like, people get mad sometimes, but everyone has tuned down a lot at least. So no one to the same extent as what me and Mithy were doing back then.
So here's the thing: when that happened and you guys were banned for the whole year, and obviously like the NIP team's just fucked up at that point because like half the lineup's gone. I remember talking to Mithy, and he was like super emo. I mean, admittedly, that's what Mithy's like if things go badly. Yeah. He was super emo, and he was like, "Oh, I'll probably just have to retire now. I can." He even said some mad things like, "I can never say my own opinion in public again because they'll just ban me," like some crazy shit like that. And I was like, "Just calm down, like the ban will end eventually." And the thing is, he just seemed like I really thought at that time like maybe he'll just quit and never play again. But I remember asking you like, "What you're gonna do?" And you were just like, "I'll just keep playing until I'm unbanned." Like it seemed like you never had any intention of quitting, right?
Yeah, I knew that if I behaved well for the remaining period of the ban, then I would get unbanned and we'll start playing competitively again.
Did it never worry you, like, okay, maybe teams will just not want to pick me up now? Maybe they'll be worried, like, oh no, he was banned for a while, like they won't take a chance on me. Did that never cross your mind?
It did cross my mind actually, but in the end, it became to be like not much of a problem at all, actually.
One last question on this topic, okay, is that after you guys were banned and you weren't in the NIP lineup, the NIP lineup obviously had all sorts of problems. Like Alex decided to swap himself back mid again, and then right when it came to around the qualifier time was when everything just somehow went to shit with Ku, and like Ku wanted to leave the team and he was going to go to Gamers 2, and there's all this drama going backwards and forwards, and like the managers of the teams were saying, like, oh, he's so unprofessional and all the rest of it. When you were actually in the team, like, do you know any of the backstory to this? Like, why suddenly things went to shit with Ku? I mean, wasn't this a player where he wanted to play with Alexic, like you're saying, and it should have been a really good setup, etc.?
I think like he wanted to play with that team, and I kind of felt like me and Mithy were like the core of the team actually. Mm-hmm. And when we left, like the team became like a lot worse because they had to take in solo queue players and all that stuff. And then I guess Ku just got enough of it and like kind of did in an unprofessional manner, but just like left the house. So that's like at least the story I've gotten. Or yeah.
So obviously, I mean, you were still like practicing on solo queue around that time when you were banned, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So if you were practicing, you must have still got to every now and then play against some of these players who were like top players. The funny thing is, when Alexic swapped back to mid, and the idea was they were going to try and qualify with him as the mid laner, he actually had to kick PowerofEvil out of the spot because they temporarily used him to win the DreamHack tournament. Yeah. And so there's what people always bring it up now as a joke, which is that when Alexic and Nip failed to qualify, all the people on Reddit were like, Alexic is shit, he's washed up, look at these scrubs he's losing to. And obviously the scrubs he lost to was PowerofEvil and Febiven, who then went on to be like the best mids the very next split.
Fox, you know?
Oh, and Fox as well, exactly. So the three guys whose teams were the top teams next split. Okay, so it looks a bit silly when you look back then. Mm-hmm. But at the time, like, was Alexic a good mid laner when he swapped back to mid?
No, he was okay, but he was not very good. Like, they lost pretty hard versus them, and this is before they had like any LCS experience. Like, they're way better today than what they were back then. So it was pretty bad.
Obviously, now those two guys have both risen up, and now like PowerofEvil's even on Origin, and Febiven obviously did a lot of incredible things, MSI, Worlds, etc. Knowing that those guys just came from the Challenger scene back then, like you've got to play with them since back when they were both supposedly bad, and now they're both really good. How do you describe them as players, Febiven and PowerofEvil? What are their strengths? What are they good at?
I think right now Febiven is like just a very complete play. Oh shit! I should be in the camera. Yeah, Febiven is a very complete player now. After Worlds, he the thing with Febiven was like the first split he was pretty good, and then after MSI when he played like with all the international people, he became even better. And now with the bootcamp in Korea, he became even better than that. So like now he's a really complete player that can play like almost any style and in any way. Like he's just really solid right now, really all around super good. And PowerofEvil is like, he really shines on like really high damage control mages basically. Like he's really good at those. He's a really good Orianna, Cassiopeia, Syndra, and all of that, and Victor, and even Azir in later times. So yeah, that's what he shines on, and he's like really excellent on those.
One of the few areas, because obviously a lot of people hype and really rate Febiven very highly now. One of the few areas I've seen people criticize him is they say like sometimes his laning's not that great. Is that reasonable?
It was reasonable before like the Korea bootcamp, I guess, but right now I don't see that being a problem whatsoever.
Okay. So when you came to the end of 2014 and you knew like you're getting unbanned, I actually had talked. Here's one of the funny things. I think I mentioned this detail in the video, but when I made that now famous video, which was how ROCCAT won the off season, and I explained in the video that I talked to like the manager of ROCCAT and some of the players, you know, and I heard the moves they were going to make. Like one of the early moves was like, we're going to get Nukeduck mid, and we're going to have like, you know, same combo here. We're going to have Overpow will just go top, blah blah blah. Like I heard all the details. It all sounded good on paper. It sounded like they like kind of had already talked to you quite early on, and like it was quite decided that you were going to join the team. Was that the best offer you had?
No, I no, it wasn't.
So why did you take that one?
Because I'd played with them for like a long time already. Like I've been scrimming with them, and like things were going like pretty well, and I liked the team, and the org was good. So I was like, I'm not gonna take like a big risk. I'm just gonna go with this, which I thought was guaranteed to be pretty good.
Sure. So okay, one of the first things about that team I have to ask you about was Overpow a good top laner?
No, not really. It was like he's kind of struggled learning champions. So it was like at some point it was like the game would be 10 times harder if the enemy banned like one specific champion for top lane. So it was like it was kind of hard. And the thing with his shot calling was that he was a really like creative and like pretty smart guy, but the thing was like in season 4, like there was no like really like structured meta game and stuff. You could do like all sort of stuff, like you could come up with tactics like on the fly and all that stuff. But at Samsung Wider Worlds kind of like showed people like the best way to play, like the way like if you play like that and the enemy doesn't, you will win kind of thing, you know. And
can you give us an example? Like what kinds of things do you think?
Yeah. Okay. So basically, what they do is like. Support and jungle goes to the side where you want to play on, and they deport on that side. And in swap scenarios, they always go 3-man with AD jungle support to the lane that pushes towards the enemy, and always sends their top laner to the wave that's coming in. And at the same time, pressures mid while they're in the enemy jungle. Like it's just the way everyone plays right now, basically. Like every single team that is like any good plays like that now. And that kind of like killed the like creative shot calling, like finding like new plans in the game. That kind of got killed by all that strategy. So and like we didn't really pick up on that, so we were like really far behind in terms of that when we didn't really so the shot calling like wasn't quite effective anymore like that.
When I heard you were going to come to this team, one of the reasons why I was so hyped and thought it would work really well is Jankos the year before had all these insane stats for how good he was at like getting first bloods, getting all these ganks off. But that was back when he was playing with what I thought were like fairly weak solo laners, like Overpow and Zaxxas. Like I don't think those guys were that good. So I thought to myself, if you put this sort of jungler with Nukeduck, he's just going to get Nukeduck rolling every game. You know, he's going to be getting him killed. Did it actually work out that way?
No, not at all. Like,
why not?
Because we like basically the first split of LCS, we did not really know what to do as a team. Like Jankos and VandeR, they are a good duo. They're extremely like good mechanical, but they didn't know about like that way of like pressuring the map that was shown at season 4 Worlds. They weren't like aware of it, and as a result, Jankos got like by a good margin like highest farm at 15 minutes by any junglers. And we got very like low amount of good wards down and all that stuff, so it was hard for us to like play aggressive. So like basically the first split of LCS when we played with ROCCAT, we did like jack shit. Like we did nothing. We didn't know what the fuck to do. Like we were so lost. Like nothing was working out.
So when you were in this particular first split, everyone also was like, what the fuck happened to Nukeduck? Like in the summer split, obviously you had tons of good games. It was all going really well. It seems like in the spring split, you didn't have many good games individually, right?
Well, yeah, but it's like, it's because we didn't work as a team. That's why, basically, like if we are doing nothing as a team, then it's really hard for anyone to shine on the team. Like no one shined on ROCCAT in spring. Like no one shined. Because it was because we like didn't do anything as a team, and like I was getting a lot of criticism for like playing passive and stuff. But if my whole map is black and I don't see the enemy team, then I'm not gonna go in. You know, then I'm gonna farm, because like that's how it works basically.
So when I actually did an interview with Incarnation when he just joined Cloud9. And he actually confirmed in the interview what a bunch of EU players had told me, which was even at this period of time where in the LCS games, you weren't having very good performances and everyone was like, oh, I guess it was a mistake to get Nukeduck. He told me in solo queue, you were like the exact opposite. Like you were like super aggressive. You just like, you would wreck everyone and you were doing really well against all the other good players. Is this reasonable?
I mean, during the spring split, I was like holding rank 1 in solo queue for like most of it. It was like me and Reckless were like swapping every other week for rank 1. So I was doing fairly well in solo queue still, yeah.
When you said it like that, like, okay, if you don't have vision, for example, you're not just going to go in, you're not going to risk it, you're going to play safe and passive. Was it just that? Did you have any, like, coming back to LCS, was there any nerve issues or, like, uncomfortable playing in a different team?
Like the first games, but then, the thing that made me most uncomfortable was basically that we didn't know how to work as a team. Because if you don't work as a team, no one is gonna, like, you can't really do anything. Like it was really no one of the team was able to take charge, including me, obviously, on what we were gonna do and all of that. And it made me like it's really uncomfortable to play on stage if you don't have a game plan. You don't know what's gonna go on. You don't know what people are gonna do, how they're gonna do. Like it was just like it was like so bad. Like we were so bad back then.
So when you say all this, you didn't have a plan, you didn't know how people were going to play. Problem is, you had a coach at the time, that guy Ducky, aka LeDuck. Now, I have to say, if we look at his career, okay, so he was the ROCCAT coach. ROCCAT was doing terribly. I heard from people behind the scenes, obviously you can tell me if this is true, that like a lot of the style of play, that was like how he thought the game should be played, or you should play this like more passive stuff. Is that accurate?
No, that's like he had like almost no impact on how we were playing at all. Like we were playing like in our own way. It was more like he was also included in one of the people that weren't able to like get us on the right track, like make us know what to do and stuff. He was more like a guy that like statistics and like finding like maybe enemy weaknesses and exposing those and stuff. But we couldn't really use that to any effect when we didn't like have the groundwork down. So like it didn't really do much.
Because it doesn't look good for him that, okay, in ROCCAT things were going badly, but things behind the scenes wasn't sound very good. So then he goes and joins Origin, and the results were really good. You know, they like made the final of LCS, blah blah blah. But then he left the team. The team did even better at Worlds. And then actually recently, Soaz made a tweet where he said that he thinks most coaches are completely useless. So it kind of almost implied that his past coaches were useless. Was LeDuck, did he struggle as a coach, do you think?
Yeah, he's not head coach material. He's more like an analyst, I would say. He doesn't suit the role of a head coach, in my opinion.
Are you someone who needs like a full-on coach? Do you need someone who's like a disciplinarian who's going to tell you do exactly this way?
I'm not sure, but it depends. What if you have any players in the team that can take like I need someone to, at least at that time I needed someone to take like a bit lead for, because I wasn't aware of like how to play the map as well. So back then I really like desperately needed it, yeah, or like the whole team did.
As a player, thinking about how all of Season 5 went, and obviously in the summer split, you did start to have some really good games, but interestingly enough, on like a totally different champion pool, because now obviously you're playing like Azir, you played actually a bunch of the ones that like Faker played, like Varus, and what was the other one? What was that other weird pick that people had part with you the split? There's Varus.
Jace, maybe. I played like Jace, for that split I played mostly Jace, Azir, Victor, Lulu, and Yasuo towards the end.
Okay, so I mean, in the past, people think of Nukeduck, they thought like assassin player. Now you're playing like all control mages and stuff. Like, is there a reason why you changed style of play?
It was LeBlanc got like heavily nerfed before that too. Like, yeah, LeBlanc got like shafted.
She used to be your main champ, right?
Like she got shafted in week 2 of LCS or something like that. But yeah, she was like one of my favorite picks. Yeah. So. Like, it was not that I always play, even in the NIP areas, I wasn't playing only assassins. I was only trying to play like what is the best, and like we came to the conclusion that like those champions were strong, but I really pushed for the Yasuo though to be played. Like the team didn't quite believe me at first, but it did end up being good at the end. So I still like the assassin player champions, but like I have to play the strong ones for us to even draft properly.
So if we think of like going into Season 6, you in theory you are just going to try and just stick to whatever's the most meta picks.
Yeah. Or whatever I consider to be good.
Okay.
Which would usually be the meta picks plus maybe something else.
So, okay, during the actual summer split, like, things were going pretty decently. I mean, it wasn't like things were going amazingly, but they weren't going badly either. It was almost like you had like a 50-50 type record, you know?
We started out really slow, but once we got Rallis and got some practice with him, I think we had a pretty good record. We started like 2-8 or some shit, and then we ended pretty okay, I think.
So, when you got to the playoffs, I think, if I'm not mistaken, I'm not certain, but I think I might have even had VandeR on Summoning Insight, like before the playoffs or something. And obviously he was sort of laughing like, haha, we're playing Unicorns of Love as well. Like, we'll beat these scrubs, you know. And I was like, okay, well, I've heard this story before with their Nukeduck teams, but okay. How the fuck did you lose that series to Unicorns of Love?
Oh, nah, it was bad, man. It was, we kind of got outplayed, and we think we got outdrafted too, because our priorities weren't like straight. Like we weren't quite sure what we wanted to play, and we got kind of outplayed too. Like we just, they were better than us at that time, I think. Is chaos style a real thing? Is that just some stupid term someone made up? I don't understand what it is, but it's nothing. I don't know who made that up, but it's not a real thing. There is no one that practices to play chaos style. No one does that.
So what was like the style of Unicorns of Love then? Like, what were their strengths?
Their strength was like their drafts was pretty good, and I think like the top laner of Unicorns of Love was playing really well too. And the support was roaming a lot from bot lane to top lane and mid lane, and they were just trying to snowball either mid or top, whoever they had the opportunity to. And then I think Horo played pretty well too that series.
Sure.
And they were just a pretty strong team back then. Like everyone was good except for Vardax.
Except for Vardax, oh, of course.
Yeah, obviously.
So then you had the Gauntlet, and in the Gauntlet, you guys actually you went pretty well, right? I mean, you were close in the series. Even you played against the Origin guys. Did you actually think that you were going to make it to Worlds? Because obviously, having Origin there, they had made the final. They'd been a very good team.
Yeah, I actually thought we would win against Origin, because the progress we were making as a team during that month, we didn't have any games, was like really significant, and I felt like we were really familiar with the patch. We knew what to draft, we knew how to draft, and we knew how to play with each other really well. So yeah, I felt that we had improved so much. Like actually, YamatoCannon, he helped us so much improve, I think, in ROCCAT.
Okay. What did he do? What did he bring to the team?
So first of all, he is like an actual smart coach, as in he has been like a leader in like pro teams in league before. He's actually been like a good league player. So he doesn't think like a random Twitter analyst or something. He thinks like an actual player about the game, like a pro player. And he also had really good authority, and he took care of the drafts, and he kind of took all the burdens on him except for playing good yourself. So it was easier for everyone to focus on their own play and just to be objective about the team decisions and all that kind of stuff. So he was the one that helped us a lot there. Yeah.
So when this team didn't make Worlds, again, I'm guessing you didn't think like, oh, maybe I should retire or anything. You just thought like, let's get ready for season 6, right?
Yeah, pretty much.
Did you ever have any... So, okay, here's the weird thing. This off-season is when everyone keeps saying, oh, all the European players going to NA, etc. You never got like some amazing offer this season to go and play in NA?
No, because I signed early with ROCCAT, like almost before my contract went out.
Okay.
So I didn't like announce my free agency or anything like that. So I didn't have like that many offers, just people didn't know.
So how did that work then? You signed with ROCCAT, but now you're in the team that was formerly Gambit or something? Like how did that work out?
Basically, I got transferred from ROCCAT to Vitality.
And that was all your choice?
That was my choice, yes. Basically, something went wrong with ROCCAT, like internally between me and them and the team and stuff. So we just kind of agreed to try to look for other options. But I would rather not talk about what it was.
Okay, fair enough. When you were in ROCCAT, even jokingly, because here's the thing, okay, like Jankos is seems like a really chill guy actually, but I know for sure he likes to talk a bit of shit, and I know VandeR actually just outright will just actually talk shit to people. But the thing is, they do it in a way where no one really takes offense to it. Did they ever, even just jokingly, like bring up the KMT series? Just to rub it in? Yeah,
a lot of times. Like they were like always coming with some new banter, always like something like a lot of. But they did it for fun, but they had a lot of banter all the time, those two. Especially after VandeR drank his first coffee of the day, he was going crazy.
Okay, fair enough. First coffee, that's what sets him off.
Yeah.
So, coming into this season, you end up on this team Vitality, where, on paper, it looks pretty good. Like, a bunch of these players have all obviously been good LCS players at one time. Like, you've got the bot lane of H2K, you've got Cabochard from Gambit, and you've got, as jungle, you've got Shook is back from the dead, and he's now back into LCS. Mm-hmm. Who actually put the team together? Like, whose idea was this lineup?
I don't know. I was like the last piece, maybe. Like I was the last one to join, so I'm not actually sure how it all started. But I think it was something like Kasing and Cabochard started it. Is what I want. No, I scratched that. I don't know what happened.
Okay. Does that mean that the lineup was set in place and they were trialing people to be the mid laner, or did they just ask you and you joined?
I mean, they didn't ask me. Like, what happened was that I got the permission from ROCCAT and Riot to talk to other orgs about transfers. And then I approached them and asked like if they wanted like me to play for them as mid, and then they wanted it, so like we made a transfer. But so that was pretty late. That was like not that long ago even.
When I described that kind of scenario I had going into ROCCAT, where I thought like, okay, well, if we get like Jankos, if he really is just going to like first blood all the time, put him with Nukeduck, it'll be like the dream combo. I have a concern here. So in Vitality, I remember watching Cabochard in Gambit, and he was really good. He was like a carry player all the time. But Diamond Prox basically lived in his lane. Like, he was just all the time, go in top lane. And it sounded like even the coach, and that was their whole system, right? Like, get Cabochard rolling, and we got a chance. Does that not concern you at all? Is Shook just going to be serving top lane all the time? Are you okay with that? Can you just play him the passive control mages? You don't mind?
Yeah, I can do that, but that is not what we're going for, though. We're going to try to like make it so that after the pick and ban, we will see like where the jungle pressure is most effective. That is the ideal world, but we're going to have to work on that a bit, obviously, because Cabochard played the whole season with the lane swap 1 versus 2 top, so we have to get used to.
So you mentioned actually that you could have played with Shook a long time ago. He was obviously in Alliance in Season 4, and then in Season 5 he was like very briefly in Elements, and then very briefly in Gobbling and Wolves, but not really much impact on Season 5. What is he actually like as a player now?
He's really good. I think he started playing solo queue. Like, the thing was, like, in Season 4 he didn't even play solo queue, and when he did, he was like trolling as fuck, like going silly on jungle and shit. Like he gave no fucks in Season 4, but now in Season 5 it's the first time in Season 5, was like the first time in a long while I saw Shook in high elo, and he was practicing a lot in solo queue and actually trying. So I think he reached like a really high level and is a really, really good mechanical player. So I think he's really solid right now. Like in solo queue, I would say he's probably the best jungler in EU in solo queue, and then like we're gonna see how it pans out like when we practice and stuff.
So over Season 5, one player whose play really confused me was xPeke. Because obviously Origin got into LCS and they were even doing well and they were successful. But when I looked at xPeke's champion pool and how he was playing, I was like, who is this guy? Like, he was just playing very safe style. He was playing champions that like I don't really associate with him. He was never, even though stuff like LeBlanc at times could be played by some people, he would never play stuff like that. He would never play any of the aggressive champions. Do you think he was a different player this time?
Um, he never really like he was always like the control mage god, like plus playing Kassadin was kind of his thing though. So I think like he just kind of tried to adapt to the meta. He played the Varus when that was the meta. Like he didn't actually pick up Azir until like way too late. But he also played Victor. I think it was the same player, but he was maybe not as good at like some parts of the season as like he used to be in season 4 and 3 and 2, and even 1 actually.
Okay, if I ask you about Froggen, first of all, I have to ask you this question. So, because we have to kind of set the tone of where your mind is before this season. Right. So, you know, there's some people on Reddit who think that Froggen was only good in season 2, and then, you know, season 3 and season 4, he was like maybe he was okay, or he was good, he was above average, or he was on a good team, or whatever. Before season 5, was Froggen actually a good player in season 3 and season 4?
When I faced him in season 3, he was like, I thought like in season 3, I thought like the best mid laner was like xPeke with a good margin from EU. At least towards the ends when, you know, worlds were coming up and they were practicing hard, he was like insanely good. And then it was maybe like me and Bjergsen was like pretty good as well. And then he was kind of like after that maybe. But in season 4, I thought he was like really, really good. When he was playing on Alliance, he was like insanely good actually. And in season 5, he was kind of maybe a bit on and off. Like he had like pretty solid performances like overall, and also had like some bad games. So like over average, pretty good, yeah, in season 5.
When people criticize him, they always try and make it sound like, oh, he's just like a boring player. He just sits there. All he wants to do is farm. Doesn't care about ever going for a solo kill. What's it actually like to play against him just in the lane?
No, like in the lane, he plays a good lane phase, I think. His lane phase is good. Because if he gets more farm than you and you don't kill him, it means he wins lane phase. But he will still go for kills if you let him. Like he's not like he punishes mistakes just as any other mid would punish mistakes, I think.
Does he have a problem with not roaming enough still? Is that kind of stereotype still exist?
No, not really. He roams like a lot, like over average even, I would say. But he do also like, but like how much a mid roams though is usually like how much jungle pressure they're getting. It will usually decide how much they roam, because if you pressure mid with the jungler and you can't kill the enemy mid laner, like then the mid laner that has the jungle pressure, he has to like push out and play aggressive, and then like walk into fog and try to roam. Like, so for example, you will see like Febiven never roams, almost, because he has like no jungle pressure. So like without jungle pressure, you don't roam. But like Dexter like to kind of play around Froggen, and they roamed a lot. Like he was one of the people that like roamed the most, maybe even out of all the mids in season 5.
So let me ask you this question, okay? So going into season 6, obviously we don't know yet officially where Froggen will go. Like rumors, maybe he'll go to NA. If we just take all EU mids that are playing right now, so we'll take even the ones in NA, we'll take Bjergsen and Incarnation, and let's just imagine Froggen wherever he goes, and then we've got you, and we've got Febiven, and we've got PowerofEvil. Yeah, a number of these players are in a very good teams, some of them in like better teams than they were last year. At the end of season 6, which one of these players do you think has the best chance to be like the best EU mid?
Bjergsen, I think.
Bjergsen, why?
I think he's the best right now of all of them. I think Bjergsen. I think Bjergsen is like insanely good.
What are his strengths?
Everything. I think he's. I think he doesn't have any weakness really, and like he plays super solid mechanically all the time. And I was also like watching like because on the IM San Jose, like you could watch like the point of view, right? Yeah. And like me and Febiven and some other, like we're watching it together, like him and the PowerofEvil VOD point of view and stuff, and like Bjergsen just played like extremely solid. He was like making like really positive plays for the team when they were like super far behind at like 15 minutes and stuff. Like I think he's the best mid laner from Europe.
What do you think of Faker?
But Febiven is really close.
He's ridiculous in what way?
No, he's really close.
Oh, really close. I think it's ridiculous. Okay.
No.
Okay, he's close to where Bjerken's is. Then. Okay, so here's a question about Febiven then, actually. One of the things that made it hard to tell how good he was this year is, like, if you think about the spring split, like, FNATIC for me in the spring split was just, like, all Huni just going crazy all the time. And it felt like every game he just went mental. And so that was where a lot of the attention was. Then, at the MSI, Febiven obviously played very, very well. Then in summer split,
he didn't play that well at MSI.
He didn't? Febiven didn't play that well at MSI?
No. He had one game versus Faker where he played really good, but he got pretty stomped in lane all the other games. I think, yeah. So like overall, his like MSI performance was like probably pretty overhyped. But at that time, I think like the mids from China and Korea were like a level ahead of like European mids at that time, yeah.
So coming into the summer split, obviously, first of all, Huni occasionally had a few problems, not that many problems, obviously, and the team was extremely good. But again, it always felt like the weird thing with Febiven was like he never had to be like the hard carry, you know. He never had that like position where like it's always going to be on Febiven to win the game. If it's like that this season, because obviously we don't know how he'll interact with these new players he's got. I mean, one of like Spirit, suppose he doesn't even speak English. He doesn't have Yellow Star anymore to shot call. If he's just like,
I'm not sure if I like completely agree with the summer split one though, because they went 18-0, right? And they played around top in early game always.
Yeah.
But whenever that failed, whenever like for some reason Huni got behind or something, like Febiven was like always carrying almost. Sure. Like every time FNATIC was behind and they came back, it was almost always like Febiven like doing like way more damage than the enemy mid in team fights. I remember the game versus Origin when they were like xPeke was playing Twisted Fate and they were like shutting down Huni and stuff, and then in one team fight, Febiven just like one shots xPeke and goes like gets a quadra kill on Victor or something and like kind of carries that game. So I think like in summer like he was carrying pretty hard some games.
Okay, but I mean, like, it's kind of what you said here. To define it, to me, he was more like the insurance policy, you know. Like, if everything goes wrong, then he comes in, and that's when he takes over, you know.
Yeah, but it's because his jungler was every single game top. So it was like, if you played versus FNATIC, you could basically like play as aggressive as you wanted on bot and mid. Like, you didn't even have to care because you knew that the enemy jungler was top at level 3 like every game. So like in early game, realistically, there is no way that he can do much more than like have good farm and keep his turret alive, basically, with the champions you were playing.
So if in Season 6 that doesn't happen, I mean, we don't know because obviously, the top and jungler Koreans, we don't know how they'll work. But if we imagine that it's not the same as the old FNATIC, and so he has jungle pressure sometimes, and the team plays differently, obviously they don't have Yellow Star, so it'll be different shot calling. If it was just like a normal team, this should be the season where Febiven just goes crazy and just carries.
Yeah, pretty much. Thing though, like he played like extremely good at Worlds, so like we kind of need to get the feel in the split, like if he like really got so much better at Worlds, or what happened, you know, if it's gonna be the same in Europe, because he was like more dominant at Worlds than he was like when he was in Europe, I think. So like just gotta see like how that transitions back. But if that is like how he's gonna play in Europe too, with a lot of like with like a good like balanced team this time, it should be like his season, yeah.
What was the order on happening to play Varus? Because was it you who played it first, or was it Faker who played it first?
It was not me. It was PowerofEvil that played it first.
Oh, PowerofEvil. Okay, that's right. Yeah. So okay, was it PowerofEvil you took it from?
No, I was pretty late on the Varus hype train. When I first saw like a fucking AD carry mid with Tira, I was like thinking like if he was trolling or something. But it happened so that Varus was actually like super strong. So like I was kind of late on the hype train. I just picked it up when it was like commonly known as a really strong pick, basically.
Right, okay. Did you watch Faker a bunch during Season 5?
Yeah, I watched most of Gen games, yeah.
Okay. What do you think of Faker in Season 5?
Like
Is he like the best player in the world?
Yeah, actually, I think so, yeah.
And is he? How would you compare Season 5 Faker to Season 3 Faker?
Well, he was like an extra step ahead in Season 3 because like the overall like skill level was like a bit lower, so it was easier for him to like be like even like one extra step up from what he is now. But I think still think he's like the best player. Yeah, like he just like wins every lane almost in farm, even if he doesn't kill. Like even if he has like bad matchups, he was like winning the lane at Worlds and all that stuff. Like he was insanely good.
What do you think? Okay, so if Faker's the best player you ever played against, who was the second best player you played against? Is like another really good mid or someone who's like some other player you were like, this guy was really good?
We're talking about like competitive matches, right?
Yeah.
All right. Because otherwise it would be fucking Season 3 Uzi, but I was only playing Scrim.
In scrims, he was insane.
Yeah, he was crazy. But in competitive matches, Thing is, like, I haven't played internationally since that point, right? I didn't even play like any of the IEMs or anything like that. So it's a pretty hard question. Are we talking about mid laners still, or are we talking about any player?
You can pick another player if you want.
All right. So any player. I guess it would just have to be like. I guess it would actually be like Piglet then, like Season 3 Piglet.
Ah, okay.
Or let me think again. Or maybe it's Huni. I'm not sure. Like Huni in Spring Split. Yeah, actually probably Huni in Spring Split. Like.
If FNATIC won all 18 games, were at least at that time in Europe, were they like the perfect team? Were there any holes that you could have attacked? Was like could anyone have beaten them?
Yeah, people were like close all the time. Like they have like big goal leads, like 5,000. And if you're down 5,000 and you still win, it's not only because you're a really good team. The enemy, like if you are 5,000 up, you are supposed to win. If you play it just completely like standard, no mistakes, you don't need to do any crazy stuff. You are supposed to win. So like they got behind early a lot of games, but they could have lost, like, but they didn't. But they could have. But they were obviously the strongest team.
If in Season 5 we got these like players who had just been Challenger before, we had Febiven, we had PowerofEvil who came in and they performed really well. Is there like an up and coming guy now, or someone who's going to come into LCS? Is there someone else who's going to become like the next great mid laner in Europe?
I mean, both Perks and Senkooks are pretty good that are coming in now for G2 and Dig, but I don't think it will be like the same. It won't be the same as what happened with like PowerofEvil or Febiven or even Fox when they just like dominated pretty hard. But they will be like good, like they will be able to compete. What
do you think of Fox's level? Because obviously the split he did really well was when they had Forgiven, and then after that, I mean, he was obviously expected to try and be like one of the main carries in the summer split, and the team obviously did really badly. Was he as a player doing badly?
Yeah, this is one I don't quite understand myself. In the spring split of Season 5, I thought that like Fox was like the best mid laner in Europe at the time. Actually, like I thought he was playing like extremely well. He was always like pressuring super hard on lane, doing a lot, even though like he didn't like take any priority farm or something, but he was still like a huge impact. But like ever since the summer split, his level kind of like fell a bit. I feel like he doesn't play as good as he used to, I think, anymore. Like I'm not sure why or anything, but I think he plays like not that good anymore.
There's that meme where it's that Pokemon screenshot and it has your head on one of them, and it's like a guy saying like 1v1, no jungle ganks, son. Yeah. Aside from just being a joke, is that actually how you wish the game was? Is that like your mentality?
No, it's not my mentality. It's more like it should be like Forgiven's face.
Yeah, that's what I wondered about.
Yeah, it's not my mentality. Like, I understand it's a team game, and I'm usually like up to pick like stuff for scaling, and like I'm not like I don't like tunnel on 1v1 lane phase or something like that.
Okay.
And I enjoy the like team aspects and team fights and stuff. So yeah, it's just like a random meme.
So one other mid laner I wanted to ask about is Incarnation. And actually, Incarnation's time in LCS reminds me of some of the things we talked about in this interview, actually, which is when he first got to LCS and they were doing badly and they were like, they lost like 3 out of the first 4 games. He actually told me like, oh, like, you know, we've got real problems. Like me and the jungler have got problems right now. And if I don't have wards, like I can't feel comfortable to play like in any way aggressive at all or make any plays. And so you saw he really struggled, and it wasn't until like they got to like the Gauntlet and Worlds you started to have the like good performances. What do you actually make of him now? Like, is he ever gonna, do you think he'll ever actually fully deliver on like the promise of like what everyone was hyping when he was just wrecking solo queue? You know, like, oh, he's gonna be like the EU Apto or whatever the fuck they said.
Like I think that in season 4, Incarnation or Jensen or Visick or whatever, I think he was probably like the best mid laner in Europe in season 4, but he's not as dominant over others as he was now. Like now he's just another one of like the good players, kind of. So I think it's unlikely that we will see like I don't know what people expect when they say like he's gonna be crazy. Like he will just play solid, and he's probably gonna have some like outstanding games from time to time, but it's not gonna be like Faker basically.
So it's unlikely he'll ever be the best EU mid.
It's possible, probably. Not super likely, I would say, but it's possible. Yeah.
Okay. If we look at your career so far, I mean, you yourself said like to you it's still like early in your career, and you know there's potentially still a lot of time to do different things. Your career thus far, if we're being honest, there's a lot of wasted opportunities, right? Like, I mean, the first split went awesome. You almost won the finals of LCS. You went to Worlds. Then you had, obviously, the whole year, Season 4 was kind of a waste. Season 5, you at least got to play in LCS, but obviously it didn't go particularly well. Like, you never had any top placings. How do you actually think of your career so far? Like, have you been fine with how things have gone so far? Do things have to get way better the next year?
No, I would obviously have liked it to go a lot better, but I'm fine with how it was. Like I'm learning from every like experience every time something happens, and like yeah, I still think it's like pretty early in my career. Like I'm only 19 now, so it's yeah, I'm not too unhappy. I have a lot of experience, and yeah, I'm not too unhappy, even though it would be nice to get some first places or something.
Do you play League in part as just as a job? Like, are you someone who, like, you know, some people are crazy and they're just like they only want to win, and like they go so crazy to win, they'll like kill themselves to win. They practice all day long, and all they're thinking about. It seems like you've kind of like leveled out a bit in that sense.
No, I'm basically one of those people. I'm pretty sure that if I check amount of solo queue games, I will have the most out of any player in LCS. Pretty sure. Like I play like non-stop. Like I think it's fun to play, and I really want to improve and play good. So yeah, I play non-stop basically.
If you have the right sort of jungler, like let's say Shook, like the synergy just gets really good and he's playing really aggressive. If your jungler plays really aggressive, will we ever see Nukeduck just go ham all the time and just go fucking crazy trying to get kills all the time in laning phase? And
like the thing is, like, it just depends on like what champions you're playing. Like if you're playing like LeBlanc with an early game jungler, like your objective is to like either get a kill or pressure mid really hard, and then with other champs you have other plans. And like I think if the team works out well, I can play very good. That is what I'm gonna say. Like going crazy and killing everyone all the time, it doesn't exist anymore. It won't ever happen. Like no one will ever do that.
Like we'll never see season 3 again where the assassin just gets so fair they just literally roam around the map killing everyone.
Yeah, and it's not even only about the patches. It's also about like people on mid actually know how much the enemy how much damage the enemy champion can do now. They finally learned that, so people are like not dying randomly. Supports and junglers like roam around now, so it's way more like at any fight. Like normally when you take a fight, it's not like a 1v1 anymore. Like every time you want to take a fight, you like kind of coordinate, and it's a lot of people involved. So it's like it will never happen that someone just like consistently like kills everyone like alone, and like, it just never happen.
If people only remember you from the old days in Lemondogs, if you had to pick out one game from this year, like this was a really good game for me, or like I felt like I was in the zone, or things went really well, is there a game you can think of this season that was really good on whatever champion?
Let me think a second. So like the Victor one versus HyrqBot was pretty good. I also think like when I played Varus against SK, it was pretty good. Had some flash ult predictions and nice ending to the game. Maybe, yeah, those two maybe.
Okay, I've got one last question actually.
All right.
What do you think that the general public or fans think of Nukeduck? Like, do you think they actually think you're a top player? Do they think you're like a good team player? Are you clutch? What do you imagine in your mind from whatever you've read or whatever you've heard? What do you think the public think of Nukeduck?
I think the public thinks of me as probably like a little bit worse than like PowerofEvil and Febiven and whatnot, and they think of me probably as a stubborn player and maybe even a bit toxic. I don't know, probably something like that.
Are any of those things true?
No.
None of them?
No.
Okay, that's the part I forgot to ask you in this interview, isn't it? So you're as good as PowerofEvil, or you could be, or you're as good as Febiven, and you could be.
Yeah, I think so.
On it, just for no reason? Like when you played them, you think you just do as well?
I think that in the last split, at like towards the end when like we actually got this team working, I was as good as both of them, I think. And now, like I was last split. Then like next split we will see what will happen then. But like I think I was that as good as them last split. But like people kind of got stuck on like the whole spring split ROCCAT when we were like fucking trash and all that stuff. But I think towards the end I had the same level as them.
Okay, is there any final message you've got for everyone who watched the interview?
No, just thanks for watching the interview, and remember to support Vitality in the upcoming LCS.
Okay, tusen tack.
Tusen tack.